Perry, man, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Again, I live in Ballard. I'm just trying to get to know my neighbors.
Right.
And I start with Perry. Tell me about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Kirkland, but I was raised in Mill Creek, which is a city, kind of just like a couple neighborhoods, just like south of Everett, north of Linwood.
Right.
So, kind of from the Everett area.
And raised with mom and dad, and
for the early parts of my life, I was just in a pretty regular two-parent household. Mom and dad, no brothers or sisters for the first 10 years of my life.
and good home life, and
great home life. I really, I think my parents did a great job. Around 7 or 8, things started to get a little bit different. Things started to get a little bit less perfect. But all families have their trials and tribulations.
for sure.
So it's nothing that I don't feel like I could overcome or that I didn't overcome. But yeah, pretty good home life.
And you said something about for the first 10 years you didn't have a sibling.
Yeah, so I have a half sister.
Okay.
I have a sister. I just like to call her my sister, but she's 10 years younger than me. My dad ended up having a different marriage and had a girl with my stepmom. That was in 2010 after my parents split up. So yeah.
I see. So you were raised, you said, in Mill Creek. You went to high school up there, and
Yeah, I went to high school. I went to middle school and high school out there. I ended up dropping out in what would have been 11th grade. Right.
yeah.
No. Yeah, 11th grade. I played sports. I was a pretty regular dude for the most part until probably around 2016. I had lost somebody that was close to me at one point, so it kind of changed my perspective on things, and I started to distance myself from my peers. I stopped playing sports, stopped going to school. Yeah.
So it really shifted some stuff in you.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. Tell me more about that.
My first love, she died when I was 16. We actually weren't together anymore, but we were together, fell in love when we were 14. Even younger, actually. But we split ways right about when we were about 14 years old, and she started using drugs, and at that time I was very opposed to the idea of any substance abuse at all, really. I was maybe experimenting with weed or whatever, right? But that's about it. And she was starting to move on to harder stuff, and I just kind of watched her kind of deteriorate. And I really kept my distance from it because I didn't want to get sucked into it. And then all of a sudden one day I got a phone call that she had overdosed and died. And so, unfortunately, yeah, she's no longer with us. And that really did shift my perspective on stuff. I felt less inclined to hang out with people that were quote unquote popular, or people that other people looked at as favorable or whatever. I just really started to question everything around me, friendships, people's just morality. You know what I mean? I felt more connected to people that had the same background as this person I'm talking about that passed away, which was kind of less of a perfect family, less of a perfect background. People who are just different, lower incomes, maybe affected by drug abuse, because really that's kind of my background in a sense too, because even though my dad was luckily in recovery when I was little, he still battled with substance abuse earlier in his life, and pretty much that whole side of my family has battled with it. like as long as I've been alive and before, right? So I just felt more inclined to kind of connect with that side of me, I guess.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so when you dropped out, what did you do? You weren't going to school all day, and you're, what,
Right.
16 years old?
Yeah.
My guess is incredibly depressed.
Yeah. And, you know, I sold drugs and I did drugs.
Gotcha.
Right. I started to, like, you know, kind of veer paths, I guess.
Now, did you start doing harder drugs then? Or when you say drugs, was it just like weed?
For sure, I started doing harder drugs then. I don't know if that was just because I was getting older or because it was probably a combination of both, like the state I was mentally and probably my age as I started to get more mature. It's like they say, like, you know, weed is a gateway drug. Whether you believe that or not, it's the first drug people usually experiment with, right? Or alcohol.
Yeah, there's many.
Right.
But that's a tough one.
Yeah, maybe you're different, or everybody's different. But I guess that was, for me and the people I was around, that's kind of like what we started with, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, when you started,
yes.
it was illegal then? Or legal?
It had been legalized for a couple of years, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
But go ahead. That's
No.
there.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good question because like the dispensaries had just opened up and stuff, and I remember we'd go and we'd ask people to buy weed for us from the dispensary and stuff, and then ultimately we decided to get some new IDs, and then we were lining up at the dispensaries ourselves at 16, looking I'm sure pretty young compared to the rest of everybody there, but yeah, and then I was doing stuff like I was snorting coke or whatever. Xanax was around. Psychedelics were big at that age. Acid, shrooms. I really didn't like mushrooms, but yeah, started experimenting with harder stuff gradually. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
And you're living with your
Mom. Yeah, my dad's out. He lives in a separate household at this point. It's just me and my mom, or maybe like we had a roommate sometimes in a townhouse. Yeah.
Gotcha. And up in Mill Creek.
Yeah. Yes.
Or area, I should say.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're in your late teens.
Yep.
Maybe early 20s. I don't know how old you are now.
I'm 23 right now.
Okay, so you're in your late teens. What's going on in your life in your late teens?
Man, I'm really not doing much of anything good. I'm not doing anything very productive. I mean, like, I would try to do the online school thing, and I just didn't have any motivation to do it, man. None at all. I had none. I was just trying to figure it out, I guess. I kind of started to watch everybody else around me, like, get ready and prepare for college.
Sorry, 1 second.
No, you're good.
I just accidentally pressed the off button for some reason. Sorry about that.
No worries.
You were watching everybody around you.
Yeah. Watching my quote-unquote peers, I guess you would say, kind of prepare for college and just kind of progress, like, along the normal path. I'm watching, people, play sports and kind of do the things that I was doing, and taking it to the next level or preparing to, you know what I mean? And part of me kind of felt like, I don't want to say left out because I left myself out, but it was just kind of like, I felt different, I started to feel much different than the people around me. And I was, I ultimately was. So as like time progresses, 17 to 18, like I'd say a big moment was like pretty much like when people graduated high school and I didn't graduate. People are getting ready for the next chapter. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she's actually getting ready to go on and play Division I college soccer. So, kind of a big deal, a successful person, right? And I'm kind of preparing for life when people leave, essentially.
So they're preparing to leave. You're preparing for them to leave.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. And that was on my mind a lot as that approached, for sure. And so ultimately people do start leaving, and at that point, that's when I started. I kind of got my first taste of opiates, what an opiate, being intoxicated off an opiate was like, and
I'm so curious.
Yes.
I ask people, like, how does that, someone introduces you to an opiate?
Yes.
Tell me about that story.
That's a great question, because I was just about to go there, because I think in retrospect, it's interesting how people kind of got on this fentanyl, shit, because, or stuff. Can I cuss? I can cuss, right? Yeah.
It's more about, I don't know, can you? Yes.
Right. I believe I can.
You be absolutely you.
All right. And I think how a lot of us got on it, at least, because, I'm 18 years old, I'm very naive still, even though I think I'm not, right? I think I'm very well versed in the world of drugs, and I have Google, and I can look up what pills look like, right? And so the counterfeit, Perk 30s that were going around, I'm sure if you've done interviews, you probably heard about them, or if you've just been around Seattle, because there's even signs like they started posting signs with like what the like beware of these fake pills because they're fentanyl and they're killing people. But I think there's a lot made out of the overdose deaths that fentanyl can cause, but there's not as much made out of the people that don't die and that grow tolerance to it and that just suffer from a substance abuse habit, right? And so I was basically thinking I'm trying oxycodone, 30 milligram, right? Because they're blue. I mean, they look almost identical in color and shape. I'd never even done a real one, right? At this point, and so I'm introduced to them first by snorting them, and so I try them, and like the moment I did it, like I was very, very, I feel the way I describe it is like I had never found a drug that like I felt like I loved before. You know what I mean? I love the feeling that opiates gave me. You know what I mean?
Describe that. I'm so curious. If you can.
Yeah.
If the English language allows you to.
Yeah. No, sure. I think it does. There's a certain warmth like associated with it for sure. It brings about kind of like a numbing quality, right? It's like you get kind of this, at least from fentanyl, you get kind of like you get a sweaty, kind of like intense feeling at the same time, kind of like speed gives you. But then at the same time, like you can nod out very easily, and almost blackout. And if you're not careful with this stuff, it's almost kind of like a dancing with the devil type feeling of like, you can feel yourself fading in and out. And
now, is that part of the excitement, or is it just scary?
For me, it was.
Okay.
But I was a very self-destructive person, as is become evident as you listen to my timeline, probably. For sure. That was part of the excitement for me. I loved it. I loved that shit. Like, I loved risking my life. I don't know why. There's something about it that I found very exciting, I guess is the best word to describe it.
I'm curious, too. I wonder if that causes adrenaline to pop up, too, like that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
Adrenaline junkies kind of like that feeling
Sure.
of adrenaline. Maybe it's tapping into that
right.
as well.
And it's like maybe when you listen to like a song or something that you have associated with, a memory, like with the drug, like you kind of get that rush, that adrenaline or whatever it is, that feeling again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's there is something that's that you find pleasure in with that, for sure.
Yeah. And my guess as well.
Yeah.
Is it just obliterates the pain? Whatever pain is happening in your life?
When you first start, in your life, yeah. I was going to say physical. I don't think it's a great physical pain reliever, fentanyl is. But definitely, like, if whatever you're dealing with, like, it's going to take you away from it,
Yeah.
just like, a lot of drugs do that people lean on. So the answer to that would be yes.
Well, there's this, fentanyl's popular drug.
Right.
Around the unhoused community, and a lot of people say, like, it gives this a sense of only comfort I get,
right,
and only kind of quote unquote escape that I get for
right.
living in this life. It's like I do fentanyl, and it takes me out of that for just that little bit.
Right. And that's the same reason I think a lot of people use whatever their substance of choice is, right?
Sure.
So same
Housed
with
or unhoused. Like,
right.
That doesn't
No,
matter.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying because I was going to make kind of the comparison of like marijuana, right? It's
Yeah.
like so similar concept. Here, the difference is that it doesn't affect you, on kind of like a regular schedule. It doesn't have the same like destructive qualities, to it outside just the time that you're intoxicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
The side effects are minimal.
right, and the need.
The addictive, right, part of it.
The physical addiction is what's different because it's you're no longer running to the drug to lean on it for emotional support. You're running away from the sickness.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's interesting. That's like marijuana. Oh, and there's lots of drugs. You can talk about sex. You can talk about video games.
Whatever your vice is, right?
There's ones that are very acceptable.
Yeah.
Ones that are not
Right.
acceptable.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I mean, alcohol somehow is acceptable.
Right. I think it it has to do with maybe how people perceive how well you can function with it in your life, because it seems like maybe alcohol. There's certainly a time and place to where you get shakes without it. Right, you can get some of the worst
You get
withdrawals.
addicted to alcohol for sure.
For sure, but I mean, like with the the pills and the fentanyl, it was just like so quickly. It was like all of a sudden, like I remember I was doing them for maybe a week or two, and then I tried to stop. I tried to like go to the gym and work out. You know what I mean? Try to kind of like do what I do, and I usually like maybe I went on like a little bit of a party binge or smoke, weed smoke binge, and kind of just like work out and try to forget about it and feel like a little bit healthy and good about yourself. But like I was too weak to even like lift weights or work out, and I was like, I'm seriously fucking I was like, I'm addicted to this shit. And it's not just like a like a marijuana like a mind fuck. It's like I later go on to find out the the opioid receptors in my brain are literally like, if you don't attach this to an opiate, you're not getting through your day like how you want to. You're gonna suffer. And so I guess the suffering kind of began in that sense, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. That's when it becomes a need.
Right.
Until you get some real help, I guess.
Yeah. No, for sure. And
I guess how many? So that's your drug of choice.
Yeah.
And how long has that been?
So I'm 18. In this this part of the story.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm 23 now.
Okay, so good 4 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people have you seen overdose?
I couldn't count. Yeah. I mean, if you hang out downtown, right there on 3rd and Pike, like I was for a while every day, you're gonna see about an overdose a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that begs the question, man. Aren't you scared? I know fear's not a. Oh, it depends, but doesn't it scare you?
It doesn't anymore because I haven't overdosed for so long.
You've overdosed.
Yeah, I've overdosed like 5 times. It was at the beginning of my addiction, mostly like the first 2 years. But I haven't overdosed in so long. I see that I've kind of built a tolerance to it, and now, that's why I was saying like earlier about like there's a lot made out of the fentanyl overdoses, but like what about like the people who continue on to use it, and then so like my life is suffering more than just, well, I mean my body is too, but like I'm not at immediate risk to die, like like I just smoked, right? I'm good. I'm not even nodding out, right?
Yeah.
But it does scare me for like my sister, right? For example, like so 10 years younger, right? 13. She's just about at that age where in a couple of years she's probably going to be, around some of the same shit. And, that does scare me for her, for sure,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your current situation.
Yeah.
We're in Ballard now.
Yes, we are.
And when did you get here? How long you been here?
Right. I've been in Ballard for since like last spring, right on the border of spring and summer, early summer. So what is that like? I want to say it's like 5 or 6 months. Yeah. So, yeah, like about that.
Yeah. And you and your partner living in a tent?
That's correct.
Gotcha. And man, it's getting cold.
Yeah, it is.
What do you guys do?
It's hand sanitizer fire season,
gotcha.
Right? Gotcha. You little rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer or olive oil works too. And you know, as long as you have something metal you can put it in, that's probably the best way to heat up your tent at this time of year. Gotcha. Yeah, for sure.
Perry, is there anything that you want people of Seattle to know?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I don't think any of us came out here with the desire to be a burden, you know, to any of you working people or just regular people that don't like what they see when they drive past us. But just, you know, try to watch some of these videos and try to, you know, let your mind kind of humanize some of these people that, you know, are telling their story because, you know, I don't want to say it could be you, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, shit happens, you know. You know, I didn't even, when I was getting, you know, hooked on this stuff, I didn't even know what I was putting in my body, really. You know, I was just an 18-year-old kid, naive, and was taking counterfeit pills, and I never intended for this. You know, I never wanted to live in a tent. You know, that was never my dream. You know, I never wanted to spend my early 20s, you know, having to steal and, you know, do the things we do to meet my basic needs. You know what I mean? And, you know, people are suffering out here, and they were suffering long before they ever hit the streets. But we're people. So just, you know, I think compassion goes a long way. I think understanding goes a long way. That applies to us too, as the unhoused. We're not excused from that either. Like, we need to be just as willing to listen to you guys as we wish that you would be, you know, willing to listen to us. But, you know, luckily that there's people like yourself that are trying to start the conversation, and I think that goes a long way. There's definitely a lot more to be said, but for now, that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Of course.
It's good to hear your voice, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear. Good to hear part of your story, and
thank you.
Yeah, man. I hope the best for you.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell it.
We'll grab that little mic and
bam,
take a couple photos and
let's do it.
pay some money.